above a serial killer. That he hates her more than that he does a serial killer. That's what he said. And he said he hates it on a cellular level or some words to the effect. Why do you there's, and I said it on my TikTok. I was basically, there's only one reason why there is hatred or that level of hatred for Meghan Markle, and that, as you said, is the African blood within her. That's the only reason. It's the only reason. They nitpick every little tiny thing that she does. They know that she doesn't come from a family that has these rules and regulations and modicum and orders of behavior that is instilled in them from birth. They know that. So if she was certain mistakes that she would make that is of great disrespect or concern, they would overlook if they actually liked her, or if she was actually a Caucasian. If she was, and the people have done the whole cross analysis of the how Kate would do literally, and Kate comes from a family like that. Kate comes from a family that of quote unquote royal approval, and she literally do the same things as Meghan, but it is more of a concern when Meghan does it. And we see the similar sort of thing with the footballers, right? We saw it with Raheem Sterling. We see it. Raheem Sterling buys his mum a house, and the focus is on him being a bling bling and spending money in a certain kind of way. And then a white footballer will do the same thing, buy his mum a house, and it's like, oh my god, what a sweet thing to do. Like, we've seen the differences. So this behavior or this treatment towards Meghan or whatnot, we can all relate to it, or we can see it. So when you climb up into higher society, you can see how we're treated. Greetings
and welcome to Out of Noise. Your host Stella B
and Nat Nye.
Welcome. Glad you've come back to this frequency, and we hope that you visit frequently.
This is the place where we bring our peace
to the mic. And every week we talk on trending subjects. So what's been happening in the week, Nat Nye?
Like all weeks, there's always a lot to talk about. But today we want to talk specifically about, or you want to talk specifically about a trending topic that has been trending for a while, and then it has its different peaks, and now we're in the peak week. Do you want to kick us off?
Well, I like the way he's tried to shift it onto me only. I brought it up because you've been talking about this Meghan and Harry. You've been dropping those little subliminals to me. And so, yeah, it worked effectively. It's like I've been made aware that Harry has released his book. So following on from their sensational Netflix interview. Now, you know what we do on Out of Noise. We are going to talk about this trending subject, but we're going to bring our perspective. Okay, we are poets, people of extraterrestrial substance. So we don't just go by the normal outtakes of outlook of what people are, told to think. We are going to bring our perspective, which is a bit more broad, a bit more a bit more, not even broad is the word, it's opposite of that. It's actually looking into the intrinsic nature of what has brought about this incident with Harry and Meghan, and look into the royal family and that institution and what they represent, and what the movements of Harry and Meghan actually represents for a wider look at classism, a wider look at elitism and imperialist history of the so-called royal family, and also look at obviously racism, okay, because that is a big part, one of the main pillars of white supremacy, okay, or white in supremacy,
all from the standpoint of a Pan-African view. So what's your views?
It's a very macro and micro situation, okay, at the same time, which is everything is everything, right? If you take away the titles of these two human beings, Harry and Meghan, okay, take away their notoriety and fame, and you just make them Harry and Meghan, Azza and Megas or whoever off the street. The situation is like a Romeo and Juliet kind of storyline of two. Well, no, sorry, it's not that at all. I'll take that back. It's more of a one side of the family, one family against the other, because of everything that Megas represents. She represents change, a future of more kind of liberal and open views, in terms of her entering a space where it's not correct for someone like her of her situation, in terms of, okay, let's list it. She's black, in accordance to the one drop rule. She's an actress. She's American, which is that's even very interesting, because I know you're going to touch on the history of America and the UK and that relationship there. And obviously she is just everything that is unapprovable for entering into that space. So that, taking away their titles, which is kind of hard to do, but taking away the titles, you can see the classic gaslighting that's going on with the situation, when people speak out about what's actually happening, and everyone who's involved in creating a situation like that completely acts like, it's all in your head, like, I don't know what you mean, I can't smell that gas, there's no gas. Meanwhile, the person's actually been turning the gas knob higher and higher every single day. Meghan is being attacked by the press, but on a deeper level, my thoughts about it are that there's more serious things that has been highlighted in that family that haven't been addressed yet properly, not to this level. And it's almost like this situation is a massive distraction from those horrific truths that emerged 3 years ago or so, and have kind of been hushed, but secretly still is ongoing. And I'm talking about the Prince Andrew, the brother of the new to be coronated Charlie bloke, who he has reinstated or has allowed to be his second in command, despite the fact that he was accused very recently and paid, and the Queen paid, was it 12 million? 12 million. Oh, just 12 million to make that problem go away. And I'm talking about the accusation, or the alleged, but the actually very obvious picture of Andrew with a young child aged 14 who came forward at older age to say, well, here's this picture of me and him at this party with Epstein. So, and he was very close with Epstein, and obviously, yeah, it goes without saying. So how comes everyone is on and on and on about how evil Meghan is and what she's done to Harry, and Harry should shut up now, and all of this kind of stuff, and no one is talking about, or it didn't get nearly enough as much press coverage as it should have when it emerged that this guy is an active paedophile. That's what I think is more concerning.
Absolutely. It goes to show really the focus being so intense. And it really does put into perspective, as you said, Stella, what the priorities are of the media, what the priorities are, therefore, of society, and what they choose to be concerned with. I've not seen many comments where people have doubted that Andrew was not involved in some heinous child abuse. I've not seen many comments like that. Yet, nevertheless, it hasn't resulted in anywhere near the same, not even the equal level of degree of grilling that Meghan has got. And what I've witnessed on the social media platforms is when you ask people who are these stern critics of her, and then subsequently Harry as a result, what has Meghan actually said? Like, people are throwing terminology upon her. We spoke about this before in terms of Jeremy Clarkson and his sickening article wanting her to be like disgraced in public and such, over and above a serial killer. That he hates her more than that he does a serial killer. That's what he said. And he said he hates it on a cellular level, or some words to the effect. Why do you there's, and I said it on my TikTok. I was basically, why is it that, not why is it, there's only one reason why there is hatred, or that level of hatred, for Meghan Markle, and that, as you said, it's the African blood within her. That's the only reason. That's the only reason. They nitpick every little tiny thing that she does. They know that she doesn't come from a family that has these rules and regulations and modicum and orders of behavior that is instilled in them from birth. They know that. So if she was certain mistakes that she would make that is of great disrespect or concern, they would overlook if they actually liked her, or if she was actually a Caucasian. If she was, and the people have done the whole cross analysis of the how Kate would do, literally, and Kate comes from a family like that. Kate comes from a family that of quote unquote royal approval, and she literally do the same things as Meghan, but it is more of a concern when Meghan does it. And we see the similar sort of thing with the footballers, right? We saw it with Raheem Sterling. We see it. Raheem Sterling buys his mum a house, and the focus is on him being a bling bling and spending money in a certain kind of way. And then a white footballer will do the same thing, buy his mum a house, and it's like, oh my God, what a sweet thing to do. Like, we've seen the differences. So this behavior, or this treatment towards Meghan or whatnot, we can all relate to it, or we can see it. So when you climb up into higher society, you can see how we're treated. And this, first and foremost, I just want to make it clear, bonfire the royal family anyway, yeah? And they are the actual visual and the literal representation of enslavers and colonizers, and they have brought a lot of wicked. That family history has brought a lot of wicked to the world. So when we're talking about nations and nations do this XYZ, really we are meant to hold those who make the decisions and those who own responsible and accountable for the nation's decision. It's kind of a bit of a distraction to focus on your regular who actually has no choice or say in a matter. So when it comes to the royal family, that family has had a choice. They have made decisions actively that has meant that our people have been enslaved, colonized, and suffered all kinds of almost endless list of horrors, genocidal horrors at that. That family is responsible with that. So I'm making this. The only reason why this is bothersome to me, really and truly, is that it highlights the fact that you cannot climb to the top of white society and be seen as equal. I think that should be abundantly clear right now. Like, we've seen it with Obama. Obama had when he first came in, he was popular, and to be fair, to a lesser extent now, he still carries a certain level of popularity. However, the fact of the matter is he didn't do anything for the black community didn't do anything for the African American community in America, not anything of tangible note that he did do for other groups. And there was always the excuse of his hands are tied, he can't do this, he can't do that. That was always the excuse. These are citizens of the United States of America. If they are suffering as a result of the system, who better then the president of that system to actually make a change for that people. This is why people were crying when he became president around the world. Yes, we can. The yes, we can was that he was supposed to signify change. But when he's in that position now, he's not actually apparently in the position to make a change. So why are we celebrating in the first place? Meghan Markle then, so following Obama being replaced by Donald Trump, that just emphasizes what difference does it actually make? So the visual representation that is supposed to have inspired our children, now our young people got to see a black president. He was immediately replaced by one that champions white supremacy. That tells you everything you need to know, right? Tells you everything you need to know. Now, Meghan Markle, similar. When she was engaged to Harry, when that relationship became serious and the wedding came about, when they got married, everyone was celebrating the same way. This is a signifier of change. Now you have a mixed race woman with African blood in the royal family. This signifies change. This signifies a step into a real 21st century of diversity. Well, look what has happened since. She has been subject to racism that she didn't actually experience before her relationship with Harry. This was an actress who was able to really navigate her way without even being considered black. So when you look at the reason why she's had to acknowledge her blackness is because they have made it an issue. They have highlighted the fact that she's black. They have made it the point of contention, whilst gaslighting us all and trying to make it about characteristics and character traits of hers, which to my standpoint, and admittedly, disclosure with us too, we have not watched the Netflix series. We've watched a couple of the interviews, but we're not interested like that. But when it comes to the reason why Meghan is attacked, that sparks up our interest, because there's a thinly veiled attack on African people. There's another assault that they're doing upon us when it's essentially saying we are not good enough to be in the pinnacle of society.
And they're just willing to throw her under the bus in a time where they are covering up a whole lot of other mess. So I mentioned about Andrew and his paedophilia, but also it emerged that the Prince William as well has been or has had some affairs that also has been swept under the rug, and that the PR company for the institution of that royalty have used the last person to enter the family, the black one, the one that they didn't really want there in the first place, to have to use as a complete distraction away from that news as well. Obviously, that's going to be very bad to have Charles and William, the two kings, to be shown in that light. Just keep having affairs. They're just terrible husbands, essentially, etc., etc. And already the royal family, as much as people are so insanely in love and enamored by this whole idea of imperialist forces, like, whoever's family you came out of, that's who now you can be chosen to represent. What do they represent, really? What do they represent for people? Yeah. So, but we have politicians to represent Great Britain. Why do you need a monarchy to represent us in that way? Like, what is it that they present? To me, obviously, it's the show and flexing of wealth, essentially, and it's representation of the empire. Really, it's about this kind of conquering of the world, and it's a show of that monarch represents that. And we know that there's a deeper history where you can literally see how that literally works. but the common and the layman, the average person on the street, what are they bringing into your life other than these narratives that are brought to you and this kind of storytelling? Like, what is it for if you really deep it? So Meghan just was like a nice loose bit of fruit that they could just fling into the mix of, like, okay, yeah, we'll throw it all over this side so you don't concentrate on the truth about what's been happening, which is one of the things that Harry in his sensational book Spare has talked about, how they're just willing. He doesn't say obviously what happened, but he's alluding to the fact that, okay, because you, my brother, have done this thing, now my wife has to suffer to the extent where she is thinking of ending her life. Like, these are the levels that people are not caring about. You know, when people talk about this and they criticize Meghan and they're like, well, why are you rocking the boat? And when I hear people who are older, who are black, who don't want to support her, who think that she shouldn't have married in because of to make all these problems go away, all of that is like a side, a side note. It's like an extra attachment to this narrative, because it's like showing the workings of the propaganda machine of the time of colonialism, and how that was so ornamentalism. Okay, this is the word that comes up when you think of that colonial past, and how it was marketed to all these people, including us, including Africans. You know, how we were sold that idea of the Queen and all of that kind of stuff. People know about the Windrush generation, but also in Africa, they were enamored with this idea before that Queen. It was the Queen Victoria, not in chronological order, but I'm saying these people were revered, and people respected these institutions. And so when you speak to a certain generation, they're angry at Meghan. They're angry at the idea of it, of a black, a mixed race. Why does the mother have locks? Why is she walking in with dreadlocks? Oh, she looked terrible. They become the elitist, imperialist voice, but with black faces on. So, yeah. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, colonial mindsets. Colonial mindsets. The conditioning of the mind to think like the colonist, essentially. That is what's been instilled. And it's not even just the older generation. When I'm going on social media, I'm seeing a lot of younger African faces criticize with quite vitriol. As this rise, it seemingly rise in black conservatism, which is very, very peculiar and strange. But nevertheless, they are getting rewarded with bigger platforms. They're getting rewarded with a voice.
People react to the fact that they get likes, or they get, pushed if they say certain messages. And some people don't really have an opinion, but they just want to be out there, so they'll say anything.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, their opinions are formed as a result of the rewards they're getting for speaking in certain kind of ways, and they don't have a connection or care to their own people. It's a very selfish mindset, and if it means that the only time they really they're used is to go against their people, they're happy to do it. Well, I mean, that speaks for itself, really and truly. It speaks for itself, and this sort of serious gaslighting that we're suffering from, and we suffer it in the UK because the UK has a reputation of being less racist than everywhere else in it. And basically that hinges upon the fact that they really champion themselves as being the ones that ended quote-unquote slavery. They did not. We ended it for ourselves. They transitioned and updated the system from the enslavement of our people to colonization. Colonization was also very brutal. So when it comes to the ownership of our land and our people and our resources and such, they have maintained that through different methods, the enslavement of our people to colonization to neo-colonization that exists today. And each time they've passed laws, each time they've stopped one particular element of the system so that it can update, so it can continue. They have had to give some sort of semblance or a morsel or a signifier of that change, and to pacify us. And this is what on on a sort of grander scale, this is how I see Barack Obama. This is how I see Meghan Markle. These, when they enter these positions as the president, as basically becoming a princess, these are pacification tools to make us calm down in the midst of severe racism that we're suffering. And it works. So as essentially, the bottom line of my point is, surely this is enough now. When the next signifier comes along, please can we just reject it? Please can we just see it for what it is now? We've now had two examples. Barack Obama, when he became president, there was all sorts of things that was said about him in terms of his legitimacy to be the president, despite with things like, oh, his father is Kenyan, he's really an African. Donald Trump, therefore, is really a German. His grandfather was German. Like, there's so many. When you look into the history of all these European ones and break it down, their lineage doesn't go that far back into America. A lot of them are Europe. You have got European grandparents, European great grandparents. You don't see anyone picking apart that. So that's an example. Meghan Markle, similar. She entered the royal family at a high status, and she's been ripped apart simply because she has got African blood. So I just want, for that reason and that reason alone, really and truly, is for us to be like, right, that's it. Enough is enough. We should not be jumping over, doing backflips and somersaults, and thinking that jumping up and down that we have these signifiers of change when they're not actually signifiers of change. They're actually tools of pacification when they come around. And stop with the focus on trying to change a society that built upon racism and actually functions and continues on the fuel of racism against our people. So what is best for us is to focus on ourselves and our own journey. Ironically, when we do that, when there is a meeting in any kind of environment, when you respect yourselves at a high level and you see yourself as equal to every human being on the planet, you walk with a certain level of pride, ironically, and you're proud of who you are and what you come from, ironically, that's when you're met with equal respect. But when you are looking and you're pandering, you're seeing different which ways to be accepted into a society that is basically put you on a spectrum that is opposite to good, opposite to intelligent, opposite to greatness, which essentially black, it has been casted upon. The word black. The black is the opposite to white, and it is fashioned in that way, and it still exists upon of society. So when we're talking about elitism and how that filters in and how that operates in terms of classism exists, but at the bottom, you're normally going to see us there within their society. The only way we combat that really and truly is not by trying to beg or trying to pander or trying to work our way in for acceptance. The only way is for us to focus on ourselves and get to our own golden age and our own formal glories.
We do have to make a stand against this and just kind of wake up to the reality of what these structures are in place for. And, you know, when you're talking about that, it makes me think of the literal benefits of having racism in place, the kind of divisions that are there, so that, you know, people essentially don't care about African pain and other countries' pain or other people who don't look the same as the whites, because if they care too much, then they're going to make more fuss about incidences that are occurring on African soil for the gain and for the ease of people to live in certain sort of way in the West. So in terms of the infrastructure that they gain for cheap levels of money. So there wouldn't be artisanal mining anymore, because people would be outraged if they cared enough and because they saw literally Africans as just another human being. No, but if you don't see them as another human being, you literally see them as lesser, then it can be less in your mind to think about the pain of what they're going through for you to live a certain level of comfortability. And I say a certain level of comfortability because you're not living like the royals, you know, but it's still the infrastructure that you're made to love so much and accept as enough, compared to what you might see someone who goes to work and is an artisanal miner living like for the very benefit of you having certain equipment to enjoy and use. But I want to move on now. Is that okay? Yeah, so that was really an interesting talk, and there's so much more we can say about Harry and Meghan. But that was one of the things that happened. Also, what happened, what we saw was images from the celebrations of New Year's from Ghana. So there's a lot of people that reached Ghana, wasn't there? This for the New Year's period, the festive period, and they were doing the year of return annual kind of thing that's been going on for like nearly 10 plus years, from according, not the year of return, but the kind of people venture into Ghana. The tourism has been slowly building over a long period. Like there's certain friends of ours that have been going back who are not from there but have enjoyed it, and it's just grown and grown and grown to the point where we got there in 2019, and for the year of return, the official year of return, where the president of Ghana has officially traveled around to reach out to the diaspora to say, come home, like you're welcome back, to make business, to build connections, to just visit for holiday and have a good time, you know, and to enjoy a Ghana experience. So this year it looked amazing, didn't it? Like there was so much that was going on. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Like yes. My only wish was that we were actually there. And yeah, the Black Starline Festival seems to have been huge. I see 52,000 people turned up, and you had the like of, that was created actually by Chance the Rapper and Vic Mensa. Big up to those two brothers. You see Dave Chappelle there, Talib Kweli, Erykah Badu, Toby Inigwe.
And so we saw Chance the Rapper was in Ghana earlier in the year of 2022, and we saw Vic Mensa was in Ghana as well, and they were just showing their little experience. And then later down the line, Chance the Rapper dropped that single, How Will I Know? How will and we were like, oh, what's this? And it was just the imagery of him in Ghana, like him visiting the president, him like just connecting with just everything that is Ghana and Africa essentially. And then he dropped that they were going to do this Black Starline event, and we were like, oh my gosh. Yeah, so just to finish my thought, the funny thing is, like, I think it's just the beginning. And yes, while it would have been good to be there at the beginning when the first one there, I just think it's okay because, like, we will be at the one where we're supposed to be at. That's just how these things work for us and for people in general. You'll be where you're supposed to be, really. So we just look forward to being at the next Black Starline Festival.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so as a highlight of the year of return, as far as what we could see in terms of social media, I'm sure there was so much more than what we have had access to. But yeah, the Black Starline Festival looked to be an incredible success. And yeah, you had Chance the Rapper, you had Vic Mensa, you had Dave Chappelle there, I see Erykah Badu there, I see Toby Inigwe there, I see Talib Kweli there, you had Stonebwoy there, you had Manifest there, you had Sarkodie there, like the names galore. And also what we saw on social media is again a continuation of the unity that we observed personally when we were there in 2019, of this African people on the continent and the diaspora connecting. So despite the riffs that we see on social media, trying to continue division, strangely and weirdly, what is actually happening on the grounds of Africa every December, January is a connection. You had Meek Mill there as well. Meek Mill looked to have a great time. He had the time of his life, it seemed. He was tweeting about it, how much love he had experienced.
So two things I want to see if we can just touch on is like a brief history. Like we've got our own thing that we did when we went to for Voyage to Motherland. We went to Ghana in 2019 for the year of return, and we visited a few hotspots. So we went to see the Nkrumah Park, which has been created to honor his name and the history. But I just really wanted to just connect a little bit about why the Black Starline name is so prevalent and why it's so important, and what is about Ghana specifically that's quite special in terms of Pan-Africanism. So for example, if you see the Ghana flag, you will recognize the black star in the middle. And where does that come from? Most people probably know, but it's just good to kind of give that history, if you can.
So Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Oh, it would have been if you can see. Yeah, I'm wearing the shirt today. If you can see. Yeah. So what Stella's alluding to, it would have been wonderful to hear your take on it, and because you could have driven it home, but you know.
I mean, let's do it. Okay, so the honourable Mosiah Marcus Garvey. One of the many entrepreneurial things that he did was he created a fleet of ships called the Black Starline, which was the opposite of the White Starline, which existed around that time in the 1800s, late 1800s. And the whole premise was it was a black-owned company and business which carried goods across the Caribbeans. Did it reach Africa?
I'm not sure about that, but basically it's in connection with repatriation and Black Starline, the Black Starline. The intention was to connect back to the motherland. That was the intention.
So, but they were created, and so the point is the Black Star is the representation of that, with because he is the father of Pan-Africanism, even though the ideas and ideals are not just always originated in him, but he brought it to the forefront of all our minds, and he kind of upheld the pride of Africans, okay, to be proudful and know who you are as an African human being, and to have that kind of knowledge of self was heavily promoted by the Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So that connection to Kwame Nkrumah. So Kwame Nkrumah, who became the president of Ghana, was he the first? Yeah, the first. And he even named Ghana Ghana because the meaning of Ghana is king. And before it was called Ghana, that area was named Gold Coast, because every country that was colonized and then taken on by the European counterparts, the people that claimed during the 1884, the Berlin Conference in 1884, was given a name associated with what goods that they mostly were getting from them. So it was called the Gold Coast because obviously there's a lot of gold in Ghana. Hence, the history of our ancestors who had the golden stools made and drip with gold. And, there is Ghanaian gold, which is a unique and beautiful artifacts that you'll find from Ghana. So Gold Coast had to go, and Kwame Nkrumah was the one who changed it to Ghana, meaning king. So that's just a tiny little brief history there. We just wanted to throw that in there, why it's really key that at this point in 2023, where we have the president president of Ghana and in Ivory Coast, us kind of reclaiming our ownership over the kind of minerals the minerals and the assets and the foods. For example, cocoa that has been produced into chocolate in Switzerland and here in UK and all around the world, and sold chocolate only grows cocoa only grows in the South Americas, in Africa, and I don't know where else that they might get it from, but those are the main places they source it from anyway. But the production of it is not taking place and in Ghana, and that's what they want to kind of change, that narrative and that dynamic currently. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot rooted to why it's so important that Black Starline event was called the Black Starline event, not under the kind of like, this is fun and pari. This is a very serious message of Pan-Africanism in an event. It's called a Black Starline event. It wasn't called Afro Nation, Afrochella, let's have fun, which, you know, Afro, you can say it has that connotation, but you know, you have that everywhere. But when it's Black Starline, with that root into the connection to the Garvey movement, there's something very serious to be said about that.
Yes, absolutely, Stella. Brilliant breakdown. And yes, the one thing that I just wanted to add to what you said is in terms of the star in the Ghanaian flag is exactly that, is to recognize the Black Star Line that Marcus Garvey championed. And essentially the Black Star Line, yes, it was a large and due, as I was saying, to repatriation, connecting Africans to Africa. And the thing is, because there's been so much divisions, there's been the horrors that our people have had to face, that our ancestors have had to face, and the lack of education that we have been enabled since childhood to now, like even the younger generation now, they're not exposed to the actual truth, means there's confusion in terms of who Africans are, in that there is not such a confusion with regards to Asians, right? So it doesn't matter if an Asian is born and bred wherever they are in the world, they're still considered by themselves and by everybody else as Asians. It's so much so a fact that it's not even questioned at any point by anybody. No matter if their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents are born elsewhere, they're considered that by themselves and by everybody. When it comes to African people, though, we dissolve under the nations as to which we're born in. And we lose that identity of what it means to be African. So people just think and associate Africans with those on the continent. And that can't be further than the truth. You're African because you are indigenous to that land. Just like everybody else is, whoever their rooting is, white people, again, they get to assume culture. We dissolve, they assume culture wherever they go. Nevertheless, if you tell American that they're actually a European American, it's not something that I'd imagine they'll be like, no, I'm not European at all. That's not something I can see them rejecting. They understand that white equals European. But with us, when it comes to black equals African, with some of us, there's some sort of weird, strange confusion, and that weird, strange confusion has been instilled from the divisions and the directive of separation that comes from the enslavement of our people. So, as they're saying, the Black Starline Festival is a continuation of the Pan-African movement on a wider scale. Chance the Rapper and Vic Mensa have created a Pan-African festival, and this is why it hits different, because of look at the quality of the artists that they've got there. The artists there know their responsibility to uplift and enlighten their people. That was what they had on stage. They didn't have no slackness on stage. So when it comes to even elevating the minds of our people, they had that in there as well. This is all about connecting us, but connecting us on a high level, not connecting us into slackness, not connecting us in a fashion whereby we bring certain degenerative behavior that we have entrenched in the West onto the continent and influence that, or or to bring us down. We want to bring ourselves up, and that's what that festival seemed to look from our standpoint. And yeah, when the universe opens up for us to be connected in that fashion, we welcome it very much.
I do. I hope. Okay, so when next it happens, I hope that they involve Fuse ODG, because obviously he has been on this for years now. Like, he is literally that this is New Africa movement has been going on for time, and he has based himself in Ghana. Like, he literally loves where he's from. He loves Africa. He loves to face forward with the representation of Africa in that way. This has come and he's been inviting the diaspora back for years to come home and, you know, build businesses, and don't wait for anyone else to do it, you know, go for it yourself. So I hope that he's involved in this somehow next time, you know, performance or whatever, because I know kind of he does his own Kente events, not just the Kente event, but he does his Tina events around this time of year then there as well. So maybe it was a clash, or I don't know, but hopefully, yeah, because the more we can bring together all the connections of the like-minded, the people that think like this anyway, and I know things have to align, so we kind of consider that as well. But we just keep manifesting, because I feel like me and Nat, when we met, we have been talking about this reality for so long, and for it to see it happen, come to fruition, is really quite something special. To like, just, we have to acknowledge the power of like manifestation, and the more of us have that plan in our mind that this is going to be where we're going to be, all of us enjoying the motherland where we're from, and finding ourselves there, yeah, the more we'll see of that vision come to fruition.
Absolutely. It's what we focus on at the end of the day. We've got to address certain problems that stick up in society, but really and truly our focus is literally on what we're building. And yeah, everyone involved in rising up the motherland, rising up our people, we are thankful for, and we're appreciative. And yeah, we are doing our bit, and we are willing that we contribute more to the movement and uprising of our people, to change things, so we're not having certain conversations, or our children are not having the same conversations that we're having today. We want that to end now. And with that said, we were tuning into Hidden Truth, Andrew Muhammad's Hidden Truth. This is a brilliant show, and on there he did have the son of the Honourable Marcus Messiah Garvey.
Yes, oh my days. The son of the Honourable Messiah Marcus Garvey was on Hidden Truth, yes, and we haven't even discussed it properly yet, just how beautiful it was to hear his philosophies, his own take on his father's philosophies, and how it has manifested in his life to date, how excellent he sees himself and how excellent he sees our people, and how prominent it is in his mind, the levels he knows that we as African people can get to and will get to once we all accept our own purposes, our own destinies, and know ourselves. So just so beautiful to see him articulate and be the kind of real manifestation of the vision of his father and mother in real life.
That's right, and I'm glad you said mother as well, because the Amy Garveys, both of them, they deserve as much credit as the Honourable Marcus Messiah Garvey too, because those two queens contributed greatly. And yeah, he himself, Julius Garvey, he's a surgeon. He's actually a surgeon, so it did carry through. And one of the things I was saying in terms why that came to mind is because he said that Andrew Muhammad's brother Andrew asked him, what would your father say if he was around today? And he'd say pretty much the same thing. And that is not good. So the work that we got to do today means that the next generations are not saying the same things that we are saying, despite the fact that flying cars are around and AI is fully embedded. We don't want the children to be saying the same thing as we are today. We want our children to be saying something different, more like, wow, this really does feel like when they're looking at stories of Mali and they're looking at stories of Ouagadougou, and we're looking at stories of Kemet and the Kingdom of Congo and the Kingdom of Zimbabwe and the Nok civilizations and the various glorious African civilizations. And there are, now that we're alive, that when we read those stories, they look it feels much like it was back then. So that's what we want from our people, and this is the work that we're doing now is steps towards that.
Sorry, yeah, I'm just looking up Shingy's new track, because you mentioned Zimbabwe, and I wanted to shout out Shingy for her new track with her fellow Zimbabwean king, and not her king, but he's a Zimbabwean king, and she is a Zimbabwean queen, and they've got a track out now, which is doing really well. And I saw she posted on her Instagram a live performance of it. That was the first time I'd heard it, but yeah, I'll find it and I'll definitely put it in the pop-ups that come up on the screen. But yeah, shout out to our Zimbabwean brothers and sisters, but shout out to the whole of Africa. Like, we're coming, we can't wait to visit. 2023 is the year of manifestation. It's in numerology it equals 7, and that is all about manifestation and things becoming drawing those things in. So we are like magnets walking around at the moment, and so everything we think, we've got to be very aware that is going to come to us in terms of what we want. So be very clear about what we want, write down what we want, be focused. Don't think, oh, I wish and I will to come, will it? No, it will be, and then put in the structures in place to make that a reality. So that's what we're on. And remember last week we were sort of saying about being organized and using this kind of rainy weather, and it's not very like motivating and stuff like that. Like, just throw on some music in the background, like get motivated, and just write the first word, write the second word, write the third word. Just incrementally get your plans in place. What are you doing this Monday? What are you doing Tuesday? And work towards those small goals, so that you can start to look back and be tick off these to-do lists of what you want to manifest. And then take the action towards when the sun starts to come back out. March 20th, we're gonna be in spring, and that is the real new year. And then in that time you can, start to meet up more with people physically, and, start to action those things that you've been planning in the hibernation period.
Asheo.
Is there anything else? I know there was something else you mentioned that you wanted to talk about outside of those two things.
My mind's blank. You have to remind me.
You said it. Oh, well, no, I can't think of it right now, but I'm sure I'll remember it later. We can talk about it another time. But yes, so we have been your hosts for Out of Noise. We will see you next week. We thank you for tuning in to our frequency.
This is the place where we bring our piece to the mic. And if you enjoyed this episode, and you would have if you reached the end, please buy us a coffee in the link below.
Remember to like, share, subscribe to our page. We appreciate you for watching, and we're coming for you more and more every single week. There'll be more of our faces in your faces, but we do value your support. Love and light, and we'll see you next time.
That noise over there, it's them boys again, ain't it? Them PH boys. Tell all your friends, make them come through. Not go without, we don't have to. Feeling the vibe, it's 2:30. Come through, make your dreams come true. Circle small, just hang with few. Life no be beans, no be rice and stew. Steady chilling, me and my crew. Welcome to our point of view. Told them since then, no great listen. Space needs a start, the vibe is in him. Modern beats, no valid reason. Steady in the studio, cooking season. Verbal mathematics, can't touch this flow, everything tactics. No fear factor, leave scare tactics, make them laugh, we get prophylactics.
Money in my mind, I cannot tell you what to feel. Hustling and grinding for the shadows every day and night. When she tell me what she wanna tell her, I ain't got time for that. That she wanna fuck her, tell her why the fuck you holding on. PH boys and vex, 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 me I judge it vex.
They don't get this. Niger, I was born in trenches. Make blocks, I ain't talking Tetris. Want my squad, I was born a collective. And I hate the way that I do that with my woo-ha. How to go to court, just alleged prove that. Hate that it can switch my pipe, but no, I'm too fly, I was born a pilot. We be cool, we be wide, them divers. No palliative, they won't come hide us. Hate me, underrate me, cause I got a essence that they shine like Starboard. Dancing on the front for my money. Me, I go fit fight for my money.
Why you want test me? You go see blood, you go see action. I did enough, I did enough, I did enough, I did enough. Yeah, PH boys and vex, PH boys